Question.
I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact line?
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2015.
2014.
Yeah. So he
I
killed.
was not here.
Yeah, but
That's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people are been dying on the contact line. Nobody is with him. A lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president, in 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel. We signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed with him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken this ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the President for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
Have you ever been to Ukraine that you say what problems we have?
I have been to.
Come once.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems.
Woo.
Even you. But
It's hot. It's getting hot in here. Woo. Let's listen. Oh, boy. Woo. I am getting so hot. I want to take. I'm interested in this conversation. Let's go. I'm sorry to interrupt. I need a break. It's getting a little too steamy in here. I want to take my clothes. Should we rewind or just keep going? Let's just keep going. Boy, it's hot in there.
But you have nice ocean and don't feel now. But you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on this
position to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
I'm not
You're in
dictating.
no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
feel influenced.
We're going to feel
I'm-
very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
you will feel
Woo!
influenced.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the very
bad position,
beginning
and
of
he
the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not
Mr.
in a good
Brown,
position.
I
You don't
was
have the
saying-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you don't.
I'm very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War
What do you-
III.
what do you
You're
think about?
gambling with
What do you
World
think
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? this
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States
are
of
you
America
speaking about?
and the president who's trying to save your country.
Please, you think that if you will speak very loudly about the war, you
He's
can...
not speaking loudly. He's not
Yeah.
speaking loudly.
This is crazy. I'm sorry, sure. Let me click. I'm gonna say my opinions to the end.
Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
You haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet,
You
and
haven't
not
been
only
alone.
in this
We
cabinet.
gave you, through
I
this
said thank
stupid
you.
president, $350 billion.
You voted
We gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
If-
West
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak.
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days, this is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks, of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this, I
Again,
tell you.
just say thank you.
I said a lot of
accept
times
that
thank
there,
you
accept
to
that-
American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong. We know that you're wrong.
But you see, I think it's good for the American people to see what's going on.
I understand, sir.
I think it's
I
very
understand.
important. That's why I kept this going so long.
Yes.
You have to be thankful. You
I'm-
don't have the
I'm
cards.
thankful.
You're buried there, your people are dying,
tell you
you're
again,
running
I
low
know.
on soldiers.
Don't-
Listen,
don't, please,
you're running
Mr.
low on
President.
soldiers. It would be a damn good thing.
Mr.
And then
President.
then you tell us, I don't want a ceasefire. I don't want a ceasefire. I want to go and I want this. Look, if you could get a ceasefire right now, I tell you, you take it so the bullets stop flying and your men stop getting killed.
Of course, we want to stop the war.
But you're
I
saying
said-
you don't want a ceasefire.
But I said to you,
I want a
with
ceasefire.
guarantees.
Because you'll get a ceasefire faster than an agreement.
Ask our people about ceasefire, what they think.
That wasn't
doesn't
with
matter
me.
for you what-
That
what
wasn't
this
with me.
means. It
That was
wasn't
with
with you.
a guy named Biden, who was not a smart person.
This
That
is
was
your,
with,
this
that was
is
with
your
Obama.
president. It was your president.
Excuse me, that was with Obama, who gave you sheets, and I gave you javelins.
Yes.
I gave you the javelins to take out all those tanks. Obama gave you sheets. In fact, the statement is, Obama gave sheets and Trump gave javelins. You gotta be more thankful, because let me tell you, you don't have the cards. With us, you have the cards. But without us, you don't have any cards.
One more question to Mr. Vice President. I'm sorry.
It's gonna be a
Damn, it's getting hot. I'm gonna have to stop the stream and come back on, chat.
tough deal to make,
Wow.
because the attitudes have to change.
What if Russia breaks ceasefire? What if Russia breaks peace talks? What do we do then? I understand that it's a heated conversation right now.
What are you
but
saying?
what
She's
if
asking, what if
Putin
Russia breaks the
breaks
ceasefire?
for
What
the-
if anything? What if a bomb drops on your head right now?
But they have
Okay?
broken
What if they
ceasefire
broke it?
many
I don't know. They broke it with Biden because Biden, they didn't respect him. They didn't respect Obama. They respect me.
But what-
Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony
Well, you're only gonna be here for 4 years. That's a point. That is a point.
witch hunt where they used him and Russia. Russia. You ever hear of that deal? That was a phony Hunter Biden, Joe Biden scam. Hillary Clinton, Shifty Adam Schiff. It was a Democrat scam. And he had to go through that. And he did go through it. We didn't end up in a war. And he went through it. He was accused of all that stuff. He had nothing to do with it. It came out of Hunter Biden's bathroom. It came out of Hunter Biden's bedroom. It was disgusting. And then they said, oh, the laptop from hell was made by Russia. The 51 agents. The whole thing was a scam. And he had to put up with that. He was being accused of all that stuff. All I can say is this. He might have broken deals with Obama and Bush, and he might have broken them with Biden. He did, maybe. Maybe he didn't. I don't know what happened. But he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is, I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, You'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great.
I fuck with Trump. I fuck with Trump. He will continue. Like, he will literally let this shit happen on live. Any other fake shit would have turned this off by now. But Trump's like, no. He wants to have this in front of the American people. Go ahead. And I think he's wrong. He don't understand how America works. He thinks, people be thinking, oh, if I just talk plainly in front of American people, they're going to get on Trump. No, they're not, man. No, I'm here to tell you, no, they're not, fam. I can tell you one thing. Niggas are tired of paying money going to the grocery store. And they're tired of the mortgage and rent prices. So whatever Donald Trump's saying, if that is if that means the rent prices will go down and the mortgage prices and we'll stop sending all this money overseas, they'll go with it. They'll go with it. Now, trust me, I know. You can say it's sick all you want, but they'll go with it, fam.
Television, I will say that. All right. We'll see what we can do about putting it together. Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, this was live, and let me restart the stream real quick because I gotta post these videos immediately. Let me come. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Well, that was earlier today. That wasn't even me. That was a previously made video. But that was live. That's what we do here. On a little place that I like to call Stay Woke TV. It's funny how many live stuff we get on here. We got the Trump. How they almost killed Trump. Live. We were here. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And now this. If y'all haven't liked, followed, by now I don't know what to give you. Because all these classic moments will go down in history. We were here. Are you not entertained? Once again, I am your host, DJ Grimlock, and this is Stay Woke TV, man. We keep getting all these classic moments live. All right. Let's rewind. Listen. And now, this time, I'm going to be making some comments.
CNN's Caitlin Collins was in the Oval Office for this meeting. Caitlin, it's hard to imagine a scenario.
I want to hear what CNN have to say. We did listen to Fox earlier. Before we go into detail, I want to hear what CNN got to say. Their head is probably spinning right now.
In which this could have gone worse. This seems to be a dream come true for Vladimir Putin.
Well, it's not an overstatement for sure to say that it is one of the most astonishing moments that we have ever seen happen inside the Oval Office, between these world leaders essentially shouting at one another by the end of this, devolving into, at points, Trump and Vance berating Zelensky for saying that he was not being grateful enough for the aid that the United States has provided to Ukraine, and Zelensky arguing back that they do not understand Putin, essentially, that he will violate any agreement if the proper guarantees aren't in place. That seemed to particularly incense against Trump, as he was saying, don't tell us what we're going to feel. Zelensky has been arguing that Putin will not stop with Ukraine, that he will go on to other Eastern European nations, including Poland, as he made the argument there. And Trump was essentially pushing back on that and telling Zelensky that he had no cards and that he needed to make a deal. And at one point, I think the most striking line from that could foreshadow what the rest of these talks are going to look like, what this press conference could look like if we still see these world leaders come out where they were supposed to sign that deal, is the president said to Zelensky, you either make a deal or we are out. Now, that comes after 40 minutes before this exchange happened, where the president was talking about how he wasn't ready to make security guarantees yet. He said the United States would still send some weaponry to Ukraine. Questions going back and forth about how a deal would hold, how a minerals deal would be carried out. All of that was essentially wiped away by those last 10 minutes that were so incredibly heated there in the Oval Office, and essentially ended with Vance saying that this is not something that should be litigated in front of the press, the many press who were inside that room. Trump saying that he thought it was actually good that it was playing out. And I asked Trump as we were leaving, can the two of you still negotiate given what we just watched that left everyone else in the room silent? He told me, quote, we'll see. But just to give you a sense of how much things broke down, look at this picture of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States. She has been the ambassador to the U.S., I should note, since 2021, since before Russia invaded Ukraine. She had her head in her hands at one point when I looked around the room and was just looking at all of the officials here. Secretary of State Rubio, Treasury Secretary Bessent, the Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, the Commerce Secretary, they were all in the room, and the Ukrainian officials as well, watching this play out and raising real questions about what the two leaders here are going to be able to get done behind the scenes. This is the photo of the Ukrainian ambassador to the United States as they were just shouting at one another between the three of them in an incredibly remarkable moment.
Trump doesn't seem to think that the sting of Putin is going to reach the United States. He rejected the idea, emotionally rejected the idea that Zelensky was presenting, that there will be effects here in the United States, that it will be felt here. What did you think of that?
This started innocently enough. The same way the French and the British leaders came and pushed back gently on Trump, Zelensky had started giving a history lesson about how Putin first seized Crimea in 2014. Trump corrected him, said 2015. He's like, no, 2014. And then explained how they had signed two different peace deals with Putin, Minsk I and Minsk II, that Germany and France also signed to guarantee. And what he was trying to do was show Trump, you know, we have tried to do diplomacy before and it hasn't worked. He was being very genteel and patient as he explained it, and it was Vance who took offense and started interjecting, and then it was Vance, as he warmed up to his subject, who then also interjected the, I haven't heard you say thank you once. It was almost like he was bawling out one of his young kids, and he warmed to his subject. And
come on now. That's not what happened. That man was getting heated. This is why you can't listen to these people. That man was getting heated. Zelensky was mad the whole time. You could just see. I'm like, man, this nigga doesn't look happy. Every second he's rolling his eyes. It's like, damn, this nigga does not look happy. So I'm thinking, all right, hopefully they're straight. Next thing you know, believe it or not, Vance starts picking up on this shit. I'm like, okay. Trump can't really see him because Trump's sitting right next to him. But Vance is looking at this dude. And it's starting to tick Vance off. Actually, I'm looking at it too. I'm like, yeah, that nigga don't look happy. Then Zelensky starts snapping. As soon as Trump said something, Trump was talking about the deal, blah, blah, blah. Zelensky's like, all right, let me talk. And then he started pretty much, he was saying some disrespectful shit. Let's just keep it a buck. We've been in it for ourselves. Nobody helped us. And they're like, okay. And then I said in my mind, that's not going to be good. They're going to remember that. I said, my boy. I think he thought he could just go through the people by talking to the press and go directly to the people. The people can't help you, my man. The only way the people can help you, they gotta be really that pissed. And to be honest, the average American doesn't give a fuck. Unfortunately. They're not into foreign policy enough like me or anyone else to be doing that. The only thing they realize is the price of everything is up. And they keep hearing about billions and billions being sent overseas. So they're not happy. But we'll see. Let's continue.
And once it became that tone, Trump took that tone on and jumped into the attacks. And I don't
See, none of that is crazy. That's not true. Zelensky took whatever they said out inside the business room and said to hell with that. He was going to snap and make his plea to the American people. But I ain't going to lie, it's probably going to backfire on him.
know how you get from that back to, look, you can't trust Putin, and here's why. I can only imagine what it was like once they all went into a conference room and had to look at each other across the table.
Yeah, and what did you think as you were watching this, Jeff?
I mean, it's pretty shocking, but what I think really stands out to me is that this administration grossly overestimates its ability to bring about a deal.
What's crazy is the that was crazy though. Trump said straight up, make a deal or we're out. I was like, oh shit. Well, that's pretty much where we're at now.
Completely agree with the point that you can't trust deals made with Russian President Putin. But I take it a step further than that and say, as long as Russian troops are advancing in the east, and they are, and he believes he's winning, you're not going to get a meaningful deal. In the sense, by meaningful, I mean like some kind of lasting peace. So I don't even think they're going to get to the point where he's violating the deal.
Because he has the upper hand. So
That's right.
why would he proceed in that regard,
That's
you mean?
right. Yes, none of his strategic objectives about changing the government in Ukraine and really controlling the strategic direction of Ukraine, none of that has changed. And as long as he thinks he can do that by what he's doing right now, he's going to keep doing that. And the rest of the negotiations with him, that's just smoke and mirrors.
And my impression is that...
How do y'all know that? How do y'all know that? You know they did lose like a lot of weapons. And a lot of freaking men got killed. You're trying to tell me they want more of this. So much people are so willing. They almost like want World War III. It's interesting. Weird kind of war hawk mentality going on with the Democrats.
Basically, Trump's national security team, people like Mike Waltz, the national security advisors.
You can't let. He already did. Good thing we stopped him. But now it's time to make a deal. What part of y'all don't understand that? It's incumbent from both sides to make a deal. But at this point, after what I've seen today, I'm pretty much convinced that there's not going to be a deal. So now we're going to see what's going to happen.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they're very traditionalist, they're anti-Russia, but like past Trump administration officials, they sold Trump on this deal through the lens of business, through the lens of making investments for U.S. companies possible, leveling the playing field with China, because China has 70% of the rare earth minerals, and this would give the U.S. a jump on some of that. But the whole idea was this was something to build on. Sign this loose agreement, then that goodwill would make Zelensky look like the good guy who made Trump look good, and we would build on that from there. And now this all just got blown up, and you could see a lot of the messages that he had absorbed, that Trump had absorbed from his conversations with Putin, just coming out. I don't know how you talk down from this.
What about, Jeff, that glimmer of hope that Nick Payton Walsh alluded to, the idea that Donald Trump, as a negotiator, would respect someone that would hold a hard line against him, that Zelensky going in there and standing his ground, even at one point as cameras were being escorted out, smiling and giving a thumbs up for the cameras, sort of as if to show that he's not intimidated by the situation, that his country isn't on the line.
I know if Putin thinks this is good for him, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. People are like, "Oh, Putin's somewhere laughing in the back." I'm like, bro, hell no. If I were Putin, the only way this nigga survive is if he stop right now. But he may be wanting to go all in. If he goes all in, then y'all already know what's going to happen. Not to say anybody can win. It's World War III. But, yeah, it's almost like the ball's in his court. Nigga, do you want to stop this? Or it's World War III. Listen, I'm already listening to what the Democrats talking about. They're all in. They're all in. I'm actually shocked. I'm like, man, y'all be the first one to start crying about when American troops start dying. But they say they're all in. You can't trust Putin, so I guess the alternative is to win. So, to win, it's World War III, man. What are y'all talking about, man? Are y'all crazy? Of course you gotta make a deal. Of course you have to make a deal, y'all boys. What is the alternative? The country we're talking about has as much nukes as us. What are you talking about? Of course it's time to make a deal. Nigga, this is already too close. Are y'all crazy? These people are crazy. Y'all want to keep, like, maybe y'all want to live on the edge, talking about some weird stuff about democracy. Like, nigga, are y'all crazy? 700,000 people dead on one side. Another 700,000 people dead. Nigga, 1.5 million people freaking dead. And you got the rest of the world like, nigga, we're not going to be involved in this shit. North Korea has just joined the war. So y'all want to continue this? Y'all crazy. Y'all already playing with fire. Your ass gonna get burnt. Man, Trump, try to end this shit. Zelensky, yeah, he's crazy. At this point, I'm convinced Zelensky is crazy. I'm not gonna lie to you. At this point, even if everything he said is true, doing what he did is freaking suicide. It's political suicide. It's just it's suicide. It's political suicide. It's country financial suicide. Are you crazy? Zelensky's crazy. And he's probably going to get put out. He's not going to be president for long. That's the only way I think Ukraine saves their face on this one. Zelensky went too far. And of course, there's people in his freaking administration that want to keep the war going on. Because that means they'll have to do an election. He don't want that shit. He can keep on being president forever. But, you know. And the people that cover the Ukraine war, they're going to continue to make money. Showing you videos and pictures over and over again. So, of course, they don't want this to stop. It's like crazy. People want this to go deeper. No. Let's just continue this. Nigga, it's been like 3 years, nigga. Like, what's the goals? Militarily, what's the goal? Stalemate forever until he gives up. Like, huh? He's not giving up. He ain't even used one nuke yet. And if he does, what then? Oh, shit. You see? Well, of course, we gotta nuke him back. What? Wait, huh? You see what I'm saying? You see? World War III.
Would
World War III. You're already playing with fire. It's probably best if you make a deal.
that work to his advantage? Do you see that as a possibility?
I don't, and I think that
and security guarantees, man. You're with America, and you got deals with our minerals, nigga. We don't have to say it out loud, but nigga, we're obviously going to make a deal about your security. We obviously can't say we're gonna put troops in Ukraine, nigga. That's gonna stop us, make us think that we're at war with them. We can't say that. Europe gotta fucking step up. We'll see, man. We'll see.
I understand.
Trump is right, man. The time to stop this war has come. But are they going to be smart enough to... It doesn't matter if you can trust Putin. Can what we're doing be verified? And can we watch each other very closely and know that there's consequences for betraying us? And if that's the case, nigga, it's time to make a deal, bro. It's time to make a deal. At least a ceasefire. No, we don't want a ceasefire.
And that Trump likes to be up against somebody that he respects.
Listen, man, Putin's against the ropes. If he's smart, he'll make a deal. If not, Russia's gonna be fucked up at the end of this. I'll tell you this once and for all. Because America will continue to just fund this shit forever until the population of Russia gets rid of Putin. I promise you. They play the long game. But I think Trump just wants out of this now. And I'm not going to lie to you. Those rare earth minerals was probably the main goal when they first started to give y'all money in the beginning. Trump just said, listen, man, let's just stop all the bullshit. Give us the freaking rare earth minerals now. The Democrats was just going to do it the slow way. Yeah, this is for free. Wink, wink. Trump just said, man, F all the red tape, man. Give us the minerals, man. We ain't doing this. Same outcome, just different ways of doing it.
But what you're seeing is a real shift in U.S. foreign policy. If you're stepping back for a moment, where he respects Putin, he respects Xi Jinping, China, and those are the people he wants to deal with. Anybody else is just not an equal, right? And
what crazy, man. Y'all never heard of keeping your enemies closer? Keep your enemies as close as possible, my boy. Gotta know what crazy shit they thinking. That's how you make your next move.
so in some ways, the foreign policy that's emerging is actually very similar to Chinese and Russian foreign policy in that in the world you have a couple centers of gravity where the real power is. We'll work things out amongst us, and like all the rest of the countries just need to fall in line. I won't mess with your area, you don't mess with my area, and we'll just straighten it out ourselves. And Zelensky doesn't rise to that level in Trump's eyes.
Meanwhile, watch his popularity ratings back home. They're going to soar. They're at 65. They're going to be higher. And European nations who were thinking about, oh, we got to go it alone, after watching that spectacle, they're going to be like, okay, it's us in Ukraine. We cannot count on this White House.
Let's talk a little.
Okay.
For good. Do you
I wouldn't say that. Trump would be quick to be like, all right, bet. Do it yourselves. I'm trying to tell you. Be careful.
Take a step back.
Crazy how it's reversed. The Republicans used to be the stormtroopers, the war hawks, I would say. And now it seems like no. With Trump at the helm, they're not trying to do war. It's not profitable.
The U.S. has an interest in Ukraine succeeding.
It's not profitable to them.
Problems in the world get better if Ukraine survives and prospers. And if Russia wins, our problems get worse. It's been quite a week. The Trump plan for Ukraine, as we understand it, could work and was getting some traction. Ceasefire in place, British and French-led force in Ukraine, maybe with American backup, a minerals deal with Ukraine that gives President Trump the ability to say, yeah, I've got a stake in this. That could come together. And now this blow up.
Yeah.
Let's hope, best case, that they pull it together. President Trump loves drama for TV. Let's hope that they can pull it together, sign the minerals deal, move forward, because the U.S., the Trump administration could succeed. And Trump could get what he wants, which is to push back on Putin, be seen as doing so, and be seen as a peacemaker. Now, I realize that this may be completely fanciful if in the next few hours this all blows up. I get that. But my job for 40 years, Foreign Service Officer, is to try to look at the way forward. And there is a way forward, which is why my frustration is that the administration keeps stepping on its own policy. This fight in the Oval was not necessary, especially because Zelensky is actually working according to Trump's plan. He's ready to sign the deal. I suspect he's ready to accept a ceasefire if he gets enough security. Trump could win if he has the discipline to see it through.
You've been in many rooms with world leaders for very sensitive.
I agree, man. I agree, man. Don't listen to these Democrats, man. They don't listen to them, man. The time to stop the shit has come.
Sensitive negotiations. I'm guessing you two have never seen anything quite like that. Did it feel authentic? Did it feel spontaneous? Or was there
It's very dangerous if it continues.
some show business with cameras and microphones in the room today?
That's a good question. I watched it carefully. I think Vice President Vance was provoking Zelensky. I think Zelensky could have answered it differently. He was trying to explain the details. That's not what I would have done or advised him to do. But then you had the president and the vice president basically bullying a Democratic leader who is fighting for his freedom and ours. So I don't see what American interest is advanced by having this fight. Was it deliberate? Was it an ambush? It's possible, but the larger question remains, what do we get out of having a fight? I know what Putin gets. What do we get? We get a lot if Ukraine succeeds, and especially if we get the British and French to carry the heavy load of the security burden. That's quite a success for Trump, success for America. I'm all on board. But the administration has to follow its own plan and not get distracted by this stuff.
Well, on your point, Ambassador, about it being in U.S. interest to see,
I would say Vance, he jumped too quick. That's not his place. He shouldn't have said that.
Ukraine succeed to the extent it can. It did seem we saw President Zelensky trying to make that point when he suggested, yes, I know you're here.
The goal is way more important than these little spits or spats. We don't want to hear him, this freaking dude, say no. Oh no, we love America for helping us. No, man, we want this nigga to accept a deal, nigga. It's time to stop this shit.
On the other side of the Atlantic, but you could ultimately feel this. President Trump pushed back on that, saying, don't tell us what to feel, but also then later suggested Zelensky right now is toying with World War III, which presumably would involve the U.S. in somehow. We aren't immune to conflicts like that, as we saw with the prior World War. So which is it?
Yeah, President Trump was just wrong about that. We thought we were safe behind two oceans and then Pearl Harbor, right? We figured it out fast. We can't be the lonely bastion of freedom in the world. That's what Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, and Ronald Reagan taught us. And that's the right lesson. The Trump administration, in its more wise moments, understood that we're in a period of great power rivalry and we have adversaries. Russia, China, Iran. So, yeah, let's work with our friends to contend with our adversaries, and Ukraine is our friend. Maybe a little difficult sometimes, but still.
But the president today didn't seem to characterize Russia as an adversary necessarily. When he was asked, do you feel in the middle? He said, I'm for both, Ukraine and Russia. How did you interpret that?
That's how you're supposed to say.
That's not the language I would have used, and I don't think our position at the UN was very good on Monday, where we supported a weak...
You gotta appeal to people's vanity. You're trying to make a deal with them.
Resolution. But if that's the way President Trump wants to play it, okay, play it that way, but then land the deal. And the deal has to provide for Ukraine's security, because if it doesn't, then we've been suckered by the Russians. And in diplomacy, don't be the sucker.
We love talking with practitioners. You're a career diplomat. Bring us into the room. And maybe not an extreme like this, but when a meeting devolves, the reporters have left. Who is in the diplomatic delegation who gets their arms around this? Do people go to separate rooms? What do you do now as a diplomat when the meeting just blew up in your face?
You advise your principal on how to fix it. What do you do to set it right? And what do you do in terms of what's possible for you politically? And someone like me is supposed to find a way forward. So, if I were advising President Trump, I would say, look, you made your point. Now tell Zelensky, make light of it. Tell Zelensky we need a deal. Let's show people after we've pushed back that we can do this.
But you get the boss alone in a room right now. Everyone goes cool off for a minute. I need to talk to you alone.
The national security, this is the job for the national security advisor. Yep. And I think Mike Waltz is a serious person.
And he was right in there.
That's right. Yeah. Now, I also think that Zelensky's people should figure out a way for him to approach Trump and make clear that, yeah, he's grateful to the United States. And yeah, he appreciates Trump's role in pushing things forward. Say that. It's true enough, and it will help. So at moments like this, the pros scramble. Don't wring your hands. Don't complain. Figure out what you're going to do. Figure out drama, right? He loves TV drama, and he's got one going. But the drama, you don't milk that drama if you continue the fight. You get more attention and put yourself maybe in a stronger tactical position if you can come out and say, yeah, that was rough, but we've agreed. So if I were advising the president, I would say, okay, you pushed hard, now land a deal.
If you're Donald Trump, you can take credit for saving this day, can't you, if things go right?
That would be my advice. Again, they're not going to ask me, but...
The Joe Rogan
Yeah, and then they studied these beagles and then killed them. Like, what are you going to learn from that? That's good for anybody.
Yeah, there's some psychotic stuff that happens. So, yeah, I mean I guess the real threat here is to the bureaucracy. So like you probably saw like, let's say like Trump as a threat to our democracy, which is ironic since he was elected with a majority of the popular vote. They started saying I was a threat to democracy. But if you just replace threat to democracy with threat to bureaucracy, it makes total sense.
Right.
So, the reality is that our elected officials have very little power relative to the bureaucracy until Doge. So Doge is a threat to the bureaucracy. It's the first threat to the bureaucracy. Normally the bureaucracy eats revolutions for breakfast. This is the first time that they're not, that the revolution might actually succeed, that we could restore power to the people.
Ben, how much of it was shocking? Like just the size of it all?
Well, the size of it all, the small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes. So, we'd see, it was a case where we saw one person was getting $1.9 billion sent to their NGO, which basically got formed about a year ago and had no prior, no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare, and it's a misnomer because if you have a government-funded non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. It's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to, people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits.
It's so insane that that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam, like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam ever.
And how many NGOs?
I think there's a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands. It's actually it's kind of a hack to the system, where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. These days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization, and then the government continues to fund that every year, and it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the requirements with that money? What do they have to do? Just good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work, but it's a giant graft machine. But
surely
people online are like unpacking this,
right? It almost seems fake. Like when you're seeing how we were covering this article that said 55,000 Democrat NGOs were discovered that had been contributing to campaigns and moving things around and pushing propaganda, and they were all connected. And they found it through AI. That you have to go through steps and steps and steps to figure out where the money's coming from. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all funneling down to this group, and this group does that. And it's a giant propaganda machine, a giant regime change machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
but does it do some good as well?
It does some good. So it's like it's not like 0% good. If it was really 0% good, it'd be much easier to attack. So there's going to be some percent good that they add in there. Really, no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare. And it's a misnomer because if you have a government-funded non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. it's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to, people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits.
It's so insane that that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam, like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam.
When you first get in, how much of it was shocking? Like this, just the size of it all.
Well, the size of it all, the small decisions result in multi-billion-dollar outcomes. So, we'd see, it was a case where we saw one person was getting $1.9 billion sent to their NGO, which basically got formed about a year ago and had no prior, no prior activity. So they just stand up an NGO. The whole NGO thing is a nightmare, and it's a misnomer, because if you have a government-funded non-governmental organization, you're simply a government-funded organization. It's an oxymoron.
Right. It's a loophole.
Yes. It basically, the government-funded NGOs are a way to do things that would be illegal if they were the government, but are somehow made legal if it's sent to a so-called nonprofit. But these nonprofits are then used to, people cash out these nonprofits. They become very wealthy through nonprofits. They pay themselves enormous sums through these nonprofits.
It's so insane that that's been going on for so long.
It's a gigantic scam, like one of the biggest, maybe the biggest scam ever.
And how many NGOs?
I think there's a total number of NGOs, probably millions, but in terms of large NGOs, tens of thousands. I mean, it's actually kind of a hack to the system, where someone can get an NGO stood up for a fairly small amount of money. Like George Soros was really good at this. Like George Soros is like a system hacker. Like he figured out how to hack the system. He's a genius at arbitrage. I mean, these days he's pretty old, but a genius at arbitrage. So he figured out that you could leverage a small amount of money to create a nonprofit, then lobby the politicians to send a ton of money to that nonprofit, so you can take what might be, a $10 million donation to a nonprofit to create a nonprofit and leverage that into $1 billion NGO. A nonprofit is a weird word. It's just a non-governmental organization. And then the government continues to fund that every year. And it'll have a nice sounding name, like the Institute for Peace or something like that. But really, it's a graft machine.
And what are the requirements with that money? What do they have to do?
Just really no requirements at all.
So they just get grants and the government just assumes that they're doing good work.
I think a lot of people in the government know that they're not doing good work. But it's a giant graft machine. I mean,
but surely
people online are like unpacking this,
right?
It
almost seems fake. Like when you're seeing how we were covering this article that said 55,000 Democrat NGOs were discovered that had been contributing to campaigns and moving things around and pushing propaganda, and they were all connected. And they found it through AI. That you have to go through steps and steps and steps to figure out where the money's coming from. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all funneling down to this group, and this group does that. And it's a giant propaganda machine, a giant regime change machine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
but does it do some good as well?
It does some good. So it's like it's not like 0% good. If it was really 0% good, it'd be much easier to detect. So there's going to be some percent good that they add in there, but it's like it might be 5% or 10% good, but 95% not.
So is there a way to audit all this stuff and find out, oh, these people are actually just sending food to poor people. These people are actually just helping people with water in third world countries. There's a way to do that and keep funding those?
Yeah, I mean, we have continued to fund things that appear to be legitimate, even with the flimsiest. If there's even the flimsiest excuse, like I just say, like, send me a picture of the thing. Like, you could literally have AI generate the picture, but if you're not even willing to try to trick me, then we're like not going to send the money. Okay.
So, what restrictions were put on? There was something set aside, like medicine and. There's what was set aside that there wasn't going to be a freeze on?
Work for like Ebola prevention. I think where you sort of fund Ebola prevention, but it turns out that actually you're funding a lab that develops new Ebola virus, recipes or something,
Yeah.
And they claim it's Ebola prevention, but it's actually Ebola creation. So some of these things, I don't know. I mean, just. But it just seems like we shouldn't be sending taxpayer money to dubious enterprises overseas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why are we doing it? Like, what exactly is the reason? Is it because we want to make friends with these people so the Chinese don't take over, the Russians don't take over? Okay, how much of that is like a good thing? How much of that is smart to do? And how much is a grift? And without any sort of oversight, which has really been going on for so long, they've just had free run.
Yeah. Well, also, we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's gigantic. So, like, if, all things being equal, if we didn't have a gigantic budget deficit where interest payments, the interest on the national debt exceeds the Defense Department budget, which is truly astounding, which means, so we're paying over $1 trillion of interest on the national debt, then, okay, we would have more room for wasting money, basically. But when we're spending so much money that the country's going bankrupt, then we really need to stop spending money unless we're sure it is good value.
So essentially, we're like a poorly managed business with an unlimited credit line that is off the rails.
Absolutely.
And if you were a person like you are who comes in and takes over businesses and straightens them out, that's exactly what you're doing.
I mean, most of the time I create businesses from scratch. Like Twitter was a case where I kind of bought a company that was I kind of knew it was terrible.
We came in Tesla in the beginning, but they were already doing something, right?
No, Tesla did not exist in any meaningful form. There were no employees. J.B. Straubel joined 3 other people. There was no car. There was no nothing.
So it wasn't even a prototype yet?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a prototype already.
No. There weren't even any employees.
Oh. That's a funny narrative. People said he didn't even create Tesla then.
Yeah, that's wrong.
So if you're handling the government like a business, you're going to have to go through all of these departments and do the exact same thing that you're doing with USA. So how does that scale up? Like, how many people do you need to do something like that?
Well, we started off with about 40 people. I kind of bought a company that was. Also, we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's 1% good that they add in there, but it's flimsiest. If there's even the flimsiest excuse, like I just say, like, send me a picture of the thing. Like, you could literally have AI generate the picture, but if you're not even willing to try to trick me, then we're like not going to send the money. Okay.
So what restrictions were put on? There was something set aside, like medicine and. There's what was set aside that there wasn't going to be a freeze on?
Work for like Ebola prevention. I actually don't even know if this work is even effective. It may or may not. Like, it could be the kind of thing where you sort of fund Ebola prevention, but it turns out that actually you're funding a lab that develops new Ebola virus, recipes or something.
Yeah.
And they claim it's Ebola prevention, but it's actually Ebola creation. So some of these things, I don't know. I mean, just. But it just seems like we shouldn't be sending taxpayer money to dubious enterprises overseas.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And why are we doing it? Like, what exactly is the reason? Is it because we want to make friends with these people so the Chinese don't take over, the Russians don't take over? Okay, how much of that is like a good thing? How much of that is smart to do? And how much is a grift? And without any sort of oversight, which has really been going on for so long, they've just had free run.
Yeah. Well, also, we just have a real issue with the budget deficit. It's gigantic. So, like, if, all things being equal, if we didn't take budget deficit where interest payments, the interest on the national debt exceeds the Defense Department budget, which is truly astounding, which means, so we're paying over $1 trillion of interest on the national debt, then, okay, we would have more room for wasting money, basically. But when we're spending so much money that the country's going bankrupt, then we really need to stop spending money unless we're sure it is good value.
So essentially, we're like a poorly managed business with an unlimited credit line
Yes.
that is off the rails.
Absolutely.
And if you were a person like you are who comes in and takes over businesses and straightens them out, that's exactly what you're doing.
I mean, most of the time I create businesses from scratch. Like
Right.
Twitter was a case where I kind of bought a company that was I kind of knew it was a hairball.
Well, you came in at Tesla in the beginning, but they were already doing something, right?
No, Tesla did not exist in any meaningful form. There were no employees. J.B. Straubel joined 3 other people. There was no car. There was no nothing.
So it
was the
wasn't
beginning.
even a prototype yet?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a prototype already.
No. There weren't even any employees.
Oh. Wasn't it a fun? That's a funny narrative that people like to say that you didn't even create Tesla then.
Me.
Yeah, that's wrong.
You play like a kid.
So if you're handling the government like a business, you're going to have to go through all of these departments and do the exact same thing that you're doing with USAID. So how does that scale up? Like how many people do you need to do something like that?
Garbage. Letting it get to you, huh?
Well, we
Yep,
started
that's
off with about 40 people, maybe 100 people.
Whoa!
And we're really just going through
special, huh?
doing very basic things here.
Yeah, that's it.
As bad as Twitter was, the federal government is much worse. So,
starting to
in the case of Twitter, it wasn't a profitable company. It was like basically a break-even company, but at least it was break-even, and it had to pass an audit. The federal government is not break-even. It's literally losing $2 trillion a year,
This is proper
and
sport,
it does
eh,
not
friend?
pass its audits. It fails its own audits. So, there's a case where, I think Senator Collins was telling me about how she gave the Navy $12 billion for more submarines, got no extra submarines, and then held a hearing to say where'd the $12 billion go, and they were like, we don't
All
know.
you're getting from me. I say
That
it's
was
a
it.
bluff. You're holding some real fine cards.
I mean, basically, the stuff is so crazy. It's like only the federal government could get away with this level of waste. Waste. It's mostly waste. It's mostly not fraud. It's mostly waste. It's mostly just ridiculous things happening.
Because they've been able to do it this way for so long, and they've become accustomed to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Milton Friedman said. Like, money is most poorly spent when you're spending someone else's money on people you don't know. How much are you going to care?
Right.
And that's the federal government. So they're spending someone else's money on people they don't know.
Now imagine any other business that was this badly run
It would be
that
dead.
complains when you want to check the books and audit it and go through all the decisions that have been made and go through all the ledgers and
Yeah.
what did you do?
Well, the people receiving the money want to keep receiving the money.
Yeah. Yeah, clearly.
Yes. So, but I mean, the reason I'm putting so much effort into this is that I think it is a very dire situation. It's not a.
I think so
It's
too.
not optional.
I be
basically.
talking about
So-
it all the time, y'all boys.
After
Y'all
this
think I'm
next
crazy.
round,
Y'all-
I gotta go buy me some
obviously know I'm
tobacco.
not crazy. I said, bro, the health department should not be closed for a week. Who's saving this money? What money are they saving?
Fortune
Where
favors
is
the
this money going?
brave. Nope. I will.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah. America's going bankrupt, so that just can't happen.
It's just bizarre to me that some people aren't willing to look at it correctly. They're not willing to see like how much chaos this is, how much waste and fraud there is, how much can be trimmed, and how much. Just because people have jobs doing bullshit doesn't mean your tax dollars should pay for this bullshit.
Yes. I mean, we found just with a basic search of the Social Security database that there were 20 million dead people marked as alive.
But were they getting money?
Some of them are getting money.
What percentage of them?
It isn't clear. We're actually trying to run this through. I was trying to get an answer right before the show. What it looks like is that most of the fraud is not coming from Social Security payments directly, but because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database, that they can get disability, unemployment, sort of fake medical payments and other things because they're marked as alive in the Social Security database. So it looks like it's a bank. The fraud is a bank shot essentially. They bank shot into Social Security. They just do an "Are you alive?" check, and then get fraudulent payments from every other part of the government.
Oh.
Yeah. And this exploits the fundamental weakness in the government is that the various government databases, they don't talk to each other. They talk to each other very poorly, in a very limited way. So the way that the system gets exploited is by taking advantage of the poor communication between the various databases in the government.
Still playing after what you've been
To give you an example of like what's happening, say, Treasury, which is improving rapidly. The main payments computer is called PAM, like payment accounts master database or something like that, but everyone calls it PAM. That's responsible for almost $5 trillion of payments a year, roughly $1 billion an hour. And when we came there, we're looking at the PAM, and it's like the payments have no. You could put a payment through with no payment categorization code and no description on the payment. Like basically untraceable blank checks.
Okay, then.
This is the kind of thing that if it was done as a public company, the company would be immediately delisted and the executive team would be thrown in prison.
This'll do.
But this is just normal at the government.
You got big britches.
So we said, okay, our recommendation to the Treasury and the Federal Reserve was like, we need to make the payment categorization codes mandatory, not optional, and there needs to be an explanation. We're not judging the quality of the explanation, but there should be some explanation for what this payment is for above nothing. That's a radical change to the system that is being implemented now. My guess is that probably saves $100 billion a year.
Jesus Christ.
That's
where is that money going?
Rough order of magnitude.
Where was that money going?
Well, so this is where you get into the sort of gray boundary between waste and fraud. If money is sent to a person or organization from the government, and you didn't really deserve it, but the government still sent it to you, is that waste or fraud?
Until next time.
Right. So, I mean, there's a lot of payments where someone just approved the payment, but then that payment officer changed jobs or retired or died.
Maybe I'm just not very good.
And the payments just keep going. You know, it's like if you forget to pay your gym membership or something like that.
Right.
Now imagine it's not the gym membership. He said your gym membership's $20 billion a year or something.
How about this year?
But they forgot to turn it off.
I think. Oh wait.
That's happening at scale in the government.
Then.
Jesus
it's totally
Christ,
nuts. Is what I'm saying.
So insane.
Yes, it's totally insane. So
what did you expect when you went in? Did you expect it would be like this?
I thought it would be bad, but I did not think it would be as bad as this.
If you play a hand out, you might win something.
I mean, look, the good news is that it's a target-rich environment for saving money. It's not like if it was a very well-run ship, if it was very efficient, it would be hard to improve. But it's not efficient, so therefore it is actually relatively easy to improve. Let's just say it's not rocket science. You know, I know rocket science. So
hurry up now.
It's a lot of mundane things. So and some of the things are like so crazy that we didn't even know to ask about that because we just assumed like, you know, payments out of the Treasury computer would have a payment categorization code and it would have some explanatory note saying what the payment's for.
What are you waiting for?
The idea that it would be just untraceable blank checks didn't occur to us at first.
Jesus.
So, anyway, just.
So is that one of the things that accounts to this? There's this $4.something trillion that's kind of they don't know where it went. They don't know.
I think that's probably a cumulative number.
Yes.
So, yeah, but yeah, if you add up it's.
Do you remember that story, Jamie?
Yeah.
What was the story?
What was what you said? There's like they just didn't have accounting for it. I think.
Yeah, it was
Went
spent
on
on legitimate things. Don't worry, but we don't know what we spent it on.
Well, I mean, how do you know? Obviously, one cannot say it was spent legitimately if they don't know what it was spent on. That doesn't make any sense.
This is such a fascinating time, because with this setup, the way it is right now, with Trump back in after all that happened to him, and with you there, and with RFK Jr. and Tulsi and Kash Patel, it's like this is a wild time to find out what's really going on. That's like never happened before. This is nothing like the first term.
No.
Like the first term, he had a bunch of neocons in the cabinet, and there's a bunch of shady people that he didn't know, and he had to appoint all these different people, and maybe he got some bad picks. Now he's had 4 years to stew on it.
Right.
And with you guys all going through this, we're getting an understanding of the government that we've literally never had before.
Yeah, this is a revolutionary cabinet, and maybe the most revolutionary cabinet since the first revolution.
I don't know what you're thinking about, but this better be one hell of a move.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
This USAID thing that's going on, Mike Benz has been on that like a pit bull, and I've been following him on X, and he's going to come back on here and kind of explain everything. But he explained it the last time he was here, and I don't think I really grasped it until Elon's 6 wizards. He brought in some young wizards to go in there and go over the books, and they are just finding crazy shit. It's great, and it's so interesting. I was listening to a left-wing podcast today. I like to mix it up. I listen to all kinds of different stuff, and it was like I was listening to a different world. Like, they weren't even talking about all of this corruption and all this obvious buying of influence. Instead, they were talking about aid overseas and how people are going to starve. And
it's mind-boggling, and there's also, I have to say, I'm upset at the general pattern of a failure to recognize how right those of us who hypothesized that there was a racket that had overtaken our entire governance structure, we turn out to be absolutely right about this, and no one's going to mention it. That's mind-blowing.
It's very strange that the media is ignoring it, especially the left-wing media. It's just too big of a win for the right, and so they're just ignoring it. And then they're just highlighting the good things that USA did, which I'm sure it probably did. Probably had to do some good things to like at least justify its existence.
As a cover story, I'm not even sure. Maybe it doesn't change anything. Obviously, this was a mechanism used to funnel money to all sorts of things that we didn't vote on, that don't make sense in light of our constitutional structure. And I obviously have concerns like everybody else about where this train takes us. But seeing that structure broken up it's a huge relief.
They gave $27 million to the George Soros Prosecutor Fund. So our own government is funding this left-wing lunatic who commit violent crimes.
And that's exactly how this racket worked, is that the ability to tax the American public and then effectively get us to pay for being propagandized, for being surveilled, that's the game. And I don't know what era we currently live in. Obviously, there's a lot that's confusing about what the Trump administration is up to, but I don't think any reasonable person could be unhappy that we are exiting that era.
I'm going to read off some of the things that this guy, Kanakota the Great, on Twitter listed, and this is off the Jesse Waters show. USAID, $20 million for Iraqi Sesame Street, $2 million for Moroccan pottery classes, $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash, $27 million to give gift bags to illegals, $27 million, $330 million to help Afghanis grow crops. Crops. I wonder what those crops are. What's their biggest crop, Brett?
It's going to be the poppy seeds for bagels, I'm thinking.
Opium! $200 million on an unused Afghani dam, $250 million on an unused Afghani road. This is wild.
Yeah, it is pretty bad.
I mean, some of this stuff is really, really crazy.
Well, yes, and USAID is, of course, riddled through whatever international madness it is that caused us to open our southern border and facilitate an invasion through the Darien Gap. So, seeing that structure laid bare is it almost feels like it can't be real. Like it can't have been this close to the surface, and yet here we are.
They were spending, is this number correct? I think the number that I read was $600 million every 2 months to ship in illegals.
Got no faith in your right?
Sounds right. I don't know the number offhand, but
what the fuck?
Well, you have to realize that basically we had a shadow apparatus functioning, and it involves all kinds of things. It involves payoffs to people who didn't deserve them. It involves contracting to entities that were necessary to get the work done. So I don't think we can properly understand what these numbers mean and what they're actually being used for, but it was a racket.
Well, we were always wondering, like, why is our debt so high? Why is the national debt so high? Like, why is our deficit so insane?
Let's see where we stand.
Well, this is it. I mean,
damn it.
How about the one where they paid $236 billion, like, for chargers?
It's bad, huh?
Do you know that they were trying to set up chargers?
You mean car chargers?
Car chargers.
And they only built a couple of them?
Excuse me. $40 billion for electric car ports. 8 ports have been built. You know how crazy that is? $40 billion for car ports.
But I have to say, as much as this is shocking, I wasn't surprised. I thought that effectively our entire system had been turned into a racket and that we were basically being fed a cover story from it. And it's weird to now have the evidence of this. But I think it was apparent that whatever had taken over our system wasn't interested in the well-being of average people, that it was interested in the power of the state to take people's resources and redistribute them, and that really is what's been going on for most of our adult lives.
And it's also important to note that this progressive, left-leaning, like radical left arm of the government, of the country, was manufactured.
Yes.
It's all manufactured. It's all manufactured and supported. It's not organic, which is really fascinating about the other side, because the other side, the reaction to it is organic. Like, say what you want about the Trump administration and what you think about him. That was an organic shift where people were like, fucking enough.
Yes, it was an overdue reaction.
Yeah.
The cover story that what we were up to was righting past wrongs was so pernicious and pervasive that it was hard to get our footing to challenge it.
Right.
But it shouldn't really be surprising that movement wasn't organic. Of course it was induced. It was a cover story for theft. And we're going to be waking up to the magnitude of that theft for quite some time.
I think this is going to take years. Chamath said that it's going to be like Iran-Contra on steroids. That's what he said. He said when you get to the bottom of all this, it's going to be insane. Because they haven't even got to the Medicaid yet. They haven't even got to the medical stuff. There's so much they haven't even tapped into where they think the real motherload of fraud is.
Yes, and I must say that there's also another aspect to this which we have to be careful about, which is that the justifiable anger at discovering what it is that we've been dragged into as a nation is going to make it hard to see where the limits ought to be in terms of upending this stuff. In other words, at the moment, I'm cheering for the wrecking ball. Right? Break this stuff up. Never again. But there are...
What's that, Jamie?
I was reading an article about the spending on the chargers. They said that they haven't actually, according to this, they haven't actually spent all that money yet.
Well, what do they do with it?
They've spent some of it to make some of those things, but it hasn't been allocated yet. It's a long article going through all the spending that's been done. It's on factcheck.org.
Factcheck.org. Who runs that?
I don't know. Some of the chargers have been made. Some of them are on the way to be made. And they've built 61 at 15 stations since mid-August or through mid-August. 14,900 more are currently in some stage of development. But that's where it goes into like where they are, what they have to be done, and who's getting the money from them. It has to be done through a long process from each state.
Yeah, the question is, how can we get a proper accounting? As you point out, who the hell is factcheck.org?
Well, that's the problem with fact-checking organizations. That should really be illegal. Like, I think if you're a fact-checking organization, we should have stringent rules on what influence is being peddled. Like, who's paying for these fact-checkers? Who's behind the scenes? What is the? It should be very transparent. How did you determine whether or not this was true or false? You know, because there are a lot of things that get said. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but Elizabeth Warren got confronted, and it's on Twitter this morning. She got confronted about the amount of money that she's received from pharmaceutical drug companies. She said she's never received any money from pharmaceutical drug companies and never received any monies from any PACs. And then, of course, underneath it, Community Notes strikes again. And, of course, she received millions.
Yeah.
She's a fucking liar.
Well, and it's an arms race. How can pharma cloak the money that it's giving so that there's plausible deniability at the point that Elizabeth Warren is confronted or Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders was hilarious. Only 1.5 billion. Only 1.5 million out of 200 million. Only 1.5.
Yep, that's what I saw as well.
Trying to say nothing. Only the hardworking people of this country gave me money.
Well, I don't think the Democrats understand that it's over and that there was a vast infrastructure that made their feeble arguments viable, and that infrastructure is now collapsing. People are far more aware, and their lives aren't going to function anymore.
Well, it makes sense now that we're seeing these numbers because, okay, this was what was funding the infrastructure. Now we get it. Because it wasn't, otherwise, it's organic. This is the will of the people. This is how people are moving. It's not. It wasn't that at all. This was all organic, and it was really about control and money. It had nothing to do with helping people, making people better, giving aid to foreign countries. That's all a cloak and dagger bullshit show. The reality was it's about money.
Yeah, it's
money and influence.
It's always about power and limited resources. And this was a new game taking place at a level that was hard to believe, and therefore many of us couldn't see it.
Did you see how they used software to map out 55,000 different NGOs that were used as a branch of the democratic system?
No, I didn't catch that.
I could send it to you. I think I sent it to you, Jamie, right? We went over it on the podcast before. It's so nutty that this was all kind of like hidden until they started using software to try to like figure out like and map out where all the influence goes. And the crazy thing about the NGOs, and this is one of the things that Mike Benz has gone like so deep into it, it's essentially like they contribute to the Democratic Party, the government pays them. It's like it's all this like weird sort of like circular money transfer thing that's out in the open.
No, it's a positive feedback. The whole idea is power is utilized to free resources that garner more power, and it is the exact inverse of the system that we are supposed to have.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Where we're headed, that's a harder question.
Where we're headed is we're going to own Gaza.
Somehow.
This is it. So Fractal Technology maps previously hidden connections between 55,000 liberal NGOs revealing how tax dollars allegedly flowed through major institutions like Vanguard and Morgan Stanley to groups like the Chinese Progressive Association. This breakthrough tracking system can now monitor every dollar going to every NGO, exposing intricate funding webs that traditional tech couldn't detect. So, example, Black Voters Matter Fund's $4 million distribution network was invisible until quantum mapping revealed dozens of subsidiary organizations. The unprecedented mapping reveals a previously hidden web of financial relationships. And that's what it's really all about.
Yes. The problem is, sometimes when I see like a list of preposterous scientific projects that have gotten big grants, I read it and I think, they all sound preposterous, but I don't know. Some of these things are likely to have had a good explanation, and it just is not apparent in the soundbite, and some of them are every bit as preposterous as they seem. And so I can't look at a map like that and say what I would expect if the system was healthy. So I'm cautious about it. I don't think the system was healthy. I think the system was a racket from one end to the other, and I've been saying that we've been living in the era of malignant governance where there's basically no element of this you couldn't turn off and make us better. But we have to be suspicious also of our understanding of how a properly functioning system would graph in something like that, so that we don't overrun the train station when we get there.
Let's liven this up a little, eh?
Damn.
Good, real good. Okay, yes.
Let me listen to that.
Oh my God, this is beyond what I foresaw happening. Like it's unbelievable. It is new levels of depravity. It is so insane. It is so insane.
Keeping it nice.
Yeah, Trump is live right now with Zil Disney. We'll just start off on the live part where they're talking to one another, and then after that we'll get in. I'm gonna blast off, and then we'll get back to like some of the more dramatic moments of this back and forth.
We know that Europe is ready, but without the United States, they will not be ready to be as strong as we need. And the last point, last not least, about exchange, about our people and children. And you know that this crazy Russian, they stolen 20,000 of children, Ukrainian children. They changed their names, they changed their families, relatives, and now they're in Russia.
Oh, it's a replay.
Should have never.
Oh, did this end? I thought that they were doing a press conference. They were continuing the press conference. Okay, well, we'll get started here. Okay, he left early. Live early and watching the Zelensky-Trump fight. Oh, they canceled the press conference? They canceled the press conference? Oh my God. Okay, well, sorry, I apologize. I didn't know they canceled the press conference. And Trump actually kicked him out. I knew they fought. I didn't realize he just got kicked. Oh my God, this literally just happened. Okay, I thought I was actually paying attention to what oh my God. 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 I'm behind. Oh my God. Okay, yeah, I understand why people were like, no personal news. God damn. Bro, what the hell? What the hell? What a crazy way to start the day. Holy moly. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. It's bedlam. Okay. Let's watch.
The same.
So Trump meets Zelensky. Okay, Zell Disney comes in. All right, he comes in, and for all intents and purposes, I'm gonna set the stage for all of you. Okay, I'm gonna set the stage for all of you. So this is supposed to be coming off the heels of weeks and weeks of Donald Trump calling Zelensky a dictator, saying he sucks, saying he ain't, saying Zelensky's got no, constantly talking about how Zelensky's short, you know, all this stuff. Okay, he's like, you got no money, no job prospects, and you're a dictator. That's what Donald Trump is saying over and over again.
Well, that is
and in the process, there's also this mineral deal that's, being floated around where Trump is like, I'm going to take all your raw earth. I'm going to hit that earth raw. He just keeps saying, I'm going to hit the earth raw. I have your minerals. I'm going to take it. Okay. I'm going to take all of your minerals. There's nothing you can do about it. And it's weird because, like, we don't even know if there's a lot of minerals or whether or not they are even rare earth minerals. They're certainly raw, but I don't know if they're going to be rare earth minerals or not. And, regardless, he's like, Trump is saying, like, I want the minerals because we gave you so many weapons. We gave you all of our old busted ass equipment, and that was like $300 billion. Like, it's time to pay up, which is, pretty honest in terms of how American foreign policy normally works, but like obviously optically speaking, probably not a very good deal. It's probably kind of a raw deal for Ukraine, but it was always slated to be a raw deal regardless. But now after all of this, there's still this back and forth where there's this suspicion where Donald Trump, dials it back and says like, no, did I call Zelensky a dictator yesterday or the other day or every single day since then? Ooh, was that me? I don't know. So like that's basically the last thing that happened before this this Zelensky conference was supposed to happen. He linked up with Keir Starmer, also known as Keir Stalin. He talked to Macron. Macron touched him in the leg, maybe even touched his heart. He's been talking to all the European heads while constantly talking about how he's going to tear the shit out of our European allies, right? But when he did the whole "did I do that" thing, I thought to myself like, okay, he's probably going to go back on this stuff. He's just playing hardball. He's going to give them more old weapons and tell them like they can continue fighting or whatever until they just like I guess inevitably come to a ceasefire negotiation, a bargain, like going along with the other side of the Brandonian policy, right? And boy, was I wrong. I didn't think that this would happen. Okay, I'll admit, a lot of you look to me and say, Hassan, you apply the science, the scientific dialectical materialist analysis to things that are happening all around the world, and seemingly this is very helpful in making accurate assessments or even sometimes predictions. But when it comes down to Donald Trump, especially in the way that he's dealt with this Zelensky stuff, it is utterly unpredictable. Okay? It is completely unpredictable. This is the Nixonian madman theory in action, but this time it's actually a madman. Like there is no IR interpretation for the way that Donald Trump operates. I'll say it. Okay? There's no like there is he has redefined the genre. Okay? He has redefined the entire genre. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like ain't nobody can make like there's no real politique. Okay? There's no real politique here. There's no
let's make this real,
there's no
shall we?
constructionist the way of approaching it. There's no Marxist interpretation for international relations here. It's just Trump. Okay, it's just Trump, and he might say some shit. He might turn back on it. But yeah, let me explain to you. Let me explain to you what happened to the best of my ability, because it's virtually impossible to truly come to terms with what happened here. So after Disney comes over to the White House, and we're like, okay, there's gonna be a mineral deal. Is this going to end up with more weapons for Ukraine, or is this going to end up with like a finalized, ceasefire bargain or anything like that?
Thank you.
It turns out, no. It's a secret third option. Okay? It's a secret third option that virtually no one could have seen. Okay? Like, what the hell, bro? Let's watch. Truly a nutty moment in American politics, okay? All right, so they come in.
What's your message for them?
You better win this.
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world. And I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous...
Bro, there is nothing funnier than the camera panning over to Zelensky. He's like, you can't... I don't like the guy, but what are you going to do? He is a victim here. He's a hostage. He's held a hostage. The entire world has been so unfair to Vladimir. They've been so unfair to him. All he wanted to do was denazify Ukraine. What accent is that? I'm so hopped up that I can't even do a good Trump right now. Okay? Many people are saying I'm a Duganist. What's wrong with that? He's got some good ideas, folks. They did the Tsar so wrong. He had great ideas. He was going to fix the Russian Empire. All these peasants, the Bolshevik Revolution, very unacceptable. Don't we hate it, folks?
Tremendous hatred. And I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either. So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe.
With the world.
I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me?
Wait, it's at 120? What do you mean? It's like you want me to go more? Why do you want me to go further? Like, it's fine. I want to hear the rest. I want to hear that.
I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough. But you're never going to get a deal that way, so that's the way it goes. All right, one more question.
Hey, I will respond to this. So look, for 4 years...
Okay, shut up. Why are you there? Who's this man? Who is this guy? Does anybody know who this guy is? I don't know who this guy is. Who the is this guy? Why are you in the room, dog? Your purpose? Excuse me. Where is the real president? Where's Elon Musk? Why is Elon Musk not in the room? Who the frick is this guy thinking he can have a moment in the spotlight? Like, don't try to clip farm, okay? You're not FaZe Ronaldo, little bro, okay? You're not Lacey. You can't. You are not the clip. Don't come in here to be like, oh, let me get a couple licks in on Zelensky so that people can talk about me too. Like, get the out of here, dude.
Years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the President of the United States' words mattered more than the President of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
He admitted Putin invaded Ukraine. Yeah, he has. That's why he's there, by the way. He's the moderating voice. He is the moderating voice. He put his eyeliner on this morning thinking to himself, I'm really going to have my moment here, okay? I'm going to play both sides here. I'm going to say the truth about the matter while Donald Trump says insane stuff. But just wait, because Donald Trump doesn't like it, okay? He doesn't like being around beta men, okay? Beta males. He is not a fan. He is not a fan of beta males. And now he's surrounded by two, okay? Donald Trump, the GOAT, Mr. MAGA, Mr. Alpha Dog, okay? Surrounded by not one, but two.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have President Zelensky.
Wait, why don't I want to see what Zelensky says here, and then Trump's reaction.
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
Here we go. 2014 and
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. That people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversations, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him. Me, like a new president, in 2019, I signed with him the deal I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broke the ceasefire. He killed our people.
He does not want to hear any of this, bro. He's like, bro, stop. He's like, stop talking. Like, you ain't even, he's like, you ain't even funny. He's like, you ain't even funny. I've seen your comedies. I didn't like them. I didn't like your comedies.
Of Ukraine.
All right, let's watch this. This is like the full vid, okay? This is the chaos.
Been working.
He does
very
not
hard.
want to hear even a second, okay?
Very close. So we've actually known each other for a long time. We've been dealing with each other for a long time and very well. We had little negotiation spat, but that worked out great. I think for both countries. I think for the world, actually, beyond both countries. And we have something.
This isn't funny to me. I am too woke. Brother, there is virtually nothing we can do about American foreign policy decisions. Okay? Nothing. Do you understand? Nothing. It is not a democracy. Please, make no mistake. There is no democratic process here. There is no morality here. I'm using this as an opportunity for everyone to recognize the reality. Okay? Recognize the reality. There is a reason why American foreign policy has left behind so many countries in rubble, which then turn those American weapons formerly used against American adversaries on America. You remember that tweet from that one journalist who was like, I've been investigating this story for years and years, and he just tweeted it? That's how I feel. That's how I feel when I watch these things unfold. Because for years and years, I have been critical of American foreign policy for being so violent and so cruel and not even caring remotely about the humanity of the people that we just use like a dish rag, okay? Only to have those people understandably develop resentment towards us or even other allies, expressions of American empire, and then eventually turn around and turn the same weapons that we gave them on us, okay? That's it. This is exactly what happened with Operation Cyclone. There's a reason why this meme exists, you know? The whole, eventually they'll turn on you, the meme that I used on my blast off tweet as well. Okay, whether it be Manuel Noriega from U.S. Friend to Foe, whether it be Saddam Hussein, this is how it works. This is the most consistent, most coherent American foreign policy. Do you understand? That's why I always say, hey, listen, if you're leftist, you're right, just too early. Okay? Joe Biden over Ukraine? Of course Joe Biden over Ukraine. Yes. And Trump is basically just full tilt, finishing the job.
Very fair deal. And we look forward to getting in and digging and working and getting some of the rare earth. But it means we're going to be inside, and it's a big commitment from the United States, and we appreciate working with you very much. And we will continue to do that.
Sean Raid, thank you for the raid, Sean. Hope you had a good stream, brother.
With Russia, I spoke with President Putin, and we're going to try and bring this to a close. It's something that you want and that he wants. We have to negotiate a deal, but we've started the confines of a deal, and I think something can happen. The big thing is the number of soldiers, mostly at this point, but soldiers being killed, thousands of soldiers. So on both sides, we're losing a lot of soldiers, and we want to see it stop. And we want to see the money get put to different kinds of use, like rebuilding. And we're going to be working very hard. But we've had a lot of very good conversations. I will say until we came along, the Biden administration didn't speak to Russia whatsoever. They didn't speak to anybody. They just allowed this to continue. And I will say that, I'll say in front of you, you've heard me say it 1,000 times, if I were president, this war would have never happened. We would have had a deal negotiated for you without having to go through what you've gone through. But your soldiers have been unbelievably brave. We've given them great equipment, but somebody has to use the equipment. They've been unbelievably brave, and we give them great credit. This was supposed to be over very quickly, and here we are 3 years later. So I give tremendous credit to your generals and your soldiers and yourself in the sense that it's been very hard fighting, very tough fighting. They're great fighters. And you have to be very proud of them from that standpoint. But now we want to get it over with. It's enough, right? We want to get it over with. So,
yeah. So it starts off relatively normal, from what I understand. Relatively normal. Okay. There's like a little bit of like pushback. Okay. There's a little bit of a history lesson from Zelensky. Of course, the entire press conference that's taken place here, this entire meeting that's happening here, is happening on the backdrop of Donald Trump's insane actions in terms of foreign policy, voting alongside Russia and North Korea and Belarus to say they're not condemning Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which was already a symbolic gesture to begin with, right? Those are symbolic votes in general, but they matter when America obviously completely changes its alignment. Donald Trump is calling Zelensky a dictator over and over again, saying he sucks over and over again, saying like, we're going to take all your minerals, all this stuff. And then seemingly it falls apart.
It's an honor to have you here. Thank you.
It's so bad. Even most of Asmongold's chat is saying Trump L. Yes, because Asmongold is pro-Ukraine. He's pro, I think, what is it? Like, he's on Ukraine, on the issue of healthcare, on the issue of like some left-wing populist sentiment. He is not on board with Trump, but it's not enough to like be a spoiler for him. That's it.
We're going to sign the agreement at the conference in the East Room in a little while, right after lunch. And we'll be having lunch together. We're also discussing some other things. And we appreciate everybody being here. It's somewhat of an exciting moment, but the really exciting moment is when when they stop the shooting and we end up with a deal. And I think we're fairly close to getting that, and an honor to have you. And please, I'd like to say something.
No, thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for the invitation. And really, I hope that this first document, will be first step to real security guarantees for Ukraine, our people, this year.
Win? No, nobody. Only America wins.
1 minute.
In this
just
situation.
to understand in what circumstances, in what situation they are, and what the attitude of Russia to our prisoners. That guys just
okay in these circumstances, but raw earth.
We're protected because the American taxpayer has to be protected too. But this is an incredible agreement for Ukraine because,
for example,
I would say
You asked about the history.
Do you feel like, given how important U.S.
shut down, but they came to our territory, they came to our land. They began this war, and they have to stop. And I think this is the question, was really the most important question. Can President Trump, I hope yes, with some other allies, to stop Putin, withdraw these enemies, our enemy, withdraw these troops from our land? And I think that you asked about the history, I think that if President, or when, he will stop Putin, if President Trump will bring peace to our country, I think he will be on this wall.
We've had very, very good talks.
Mr. President, what about military aid to Ukraine? President Zelensky just said that there'll be no compromises with Vladimir Putin. I just wanted to ask both of you, firstly, are there compromises that you think that President Zelensky is going to have to make? And President Zelensky, is there anything that you think that you may be able to offer or bring to the table, for example, elections? Thank you.
I think you're going to have to always make compromises. You can't do any deals without compromises. So certainly he's going to have to make some compromises, but hopefully they won't be as big as some people think you're going to have to make. That's all. It's all we can do. I'm here as an arbitrator, as a mediator to a certain extent between two parties that have been very hostile. To put it mildly, they've been very hostile. There's been a vicious war. There's been a vicious war. You know, it's a very level battlefield, and those bullets go out, and as I've said many times, we were talking about it with Pete, many times the only thing stopping those bullets is a human body. And in the case we're talking about, generally young human bodies are stopping a lot of bullets. It's
a poet.
dead level. That's
a real poet, dude. Trump is a real poet, okay? Flatland, only thing that stops a bullet is a human body.
Farmland, it's great land. It's great farmland, but there's very little protection against the bullets that are being, and other things that are being shot. So all I can do is see if I can get everybody.
I'm fully on his side, and I don't think he said anything was wrong, but do you feel like, given how important U.S. aid is to Ukraine, Zelensky should have acted differently, glaze Trump/USA more? There is nothing. I just tweeted about this, actually. Interesting question, but there is literally nothing Zelensky can do, nothing in this equation that will stop Trump and his admin from humiliating him. Obviously, our proxies are always powerlessly off power. He did. He literally glazed them. He, at 11:30, 30 minutes ago, Zelensky still posted a tweet being like, "Thank you so much, Mr. America. Thank you so much, at POTUS, for kicking me out. It is okay. We love America." Like, it does not matter. He was glazing him. He was glazing him the whole time. He was. What do you want him to do? What more can he do? He could literally get on his hands and knees and Trump off, and it still would not change this dynamic. Look, this is basically the proverbial getting on your hands and knees and Trump off. He said, "Thank you, America. Thank you for your support. Thank you for this visit. Thank you, POTUS, Congress, and the American people. Ukraine needs just and lasting peace, and we are working exactly for that." What do you think this is? This is after he got kicked out, bro. This is after he got kicked out. This is literally a man who is on his hands and knees. And the reality of the matter is, the power dynamic has always been this way, okay? It has always been this way. The difference here is Donald Trump is not even trying to maintain any sort of like optical illusion that we are here, we're in it for defending Ukraine. We're in it for helping Ukraine. Okay? We're in it to help Ukraine out in any capacity. He's just actively saying, nope, not even a little bit. No more carrots, only sticks. Okay? Understand that in terms of the power dynamic between America and Ukraine, this has always been the case. Oh my God. Breaking. NBC reports that the U.S. State Department is ending support for Ukraine's power grid restoration. It is so insane. It is so insane. Are you pro-Ukraine regardless of this? Just curious. What do you mean pro-Ukraine regardless of this? I've always been pro-Ukraine. The Ukrainian people are the ones who are getting f***ed over no matter which way this goes. They're either going to get f***ed over by Russia or they're going to get over by America. Right now, they're getting over by both at the same time, and in ways that even I did not foresee. Like, this is beyond
all right. Let's stop
what I think. Beyond what I
everyone's making it out to be. All right, y'all. Let's switch. Hold on. Let me watch one more thing. I want to thank y'all for watching. Make sure y'all hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Once again, I'm your host, Mr. DJ Grimlock. This is Stay Woke TV, as usual. I don't know if it's time to take a quick nap because I'm tired.
Joining me now is Democratic Senator Jack Reed of Rhode Island. He is the ranking member on the Senate Arms.
Oh, actually, never mind. Let's continue. I'm gonna just take a little lay in the back real quick for like 10 minutes.
Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker on an unprecedented and historic day in Washington, where a face-to-face meeting between President Trump and Ukraine's President Zelensky in the Oval Office turned combative and confrontational. Zelensky left the White House without signing the deal to give the U.S. access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals and without holding the planned joint press conference with President Trump. The White House says they told Ukrainian officials that President Zelensky needed to leave the White House and return when he is ready for peace. It was a truly extraordinary moment in the Oval Office, spiraling into a shouting match with Vice President Vance.
Wow, this is crazy. Wow, this is crazy.
And without holding the planned joint press conference with President Trump. The White House says they told Ukrainian officials that President Zelensky needed to leave the White House and return when he is ready for peace. It was a truly extraordinary moment in the Oval Office, spiraling into a shouting match with Vice President Vance berating President Zelensky for not being more grateful and President Trump threatening to abandon Ukraine. Here's some of what happened during that heated exchange in the Oval Office.
What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if you
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict. Do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly what
this.
you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
You will
good.
feel influence.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed
From the
yourself
very-
to be in a
from
very
the
bad
very
position,
beginning
and he
of the
happens
war.
to be right about
From
it.
the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a
Mr.
good
Ra-
position.
I
You
was
don't have the
in-
cards right now. With us, you start having
not playing
cards.
cards.
Right now, you
I'm
don't.
very
You're playing
serious,
cards.
Mr. President.
You're
I'm
playing
very
cards.
serious.
You're
I'm
gambling
the
with the
president
lives
in
of
war.
millions of people.
You think-
You're gambling with World War III.
what you're
You're
thinking
gambling
about?
with
What you're
World
thinking
War
about?
III. And what you're doing is very disrespectful to the country, this country. That's
with
back
all
to you.
respect to your
Far
country.
more than a lot of people said
very
they
respect.
should have.
Have you said thank you once? This
A lot
entire
of
meeting?
times.
No, in this
Even
entire meeting,
today.
have you said thank
Even
you?
today.
You went to Pennsylvania and campaigned for the opposition in October. Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Your country's
Can I-
in big
can I-
trouble.
can I
Wait a
answer?
minute. No,
Can
you've
I
done a lot
answer?
of talking. Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not
I
winning.
know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn
We-
good chance of
we are
coming out
staying,
okay because of
Mr.
us.
President.
If you didn't have
You
our
invited
military
me-
equipment,
you invited
if
me
you
to
didn't
speak-
have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3
okay?
days, I heard it from Putin. In 3 days. This is something
Maybe
new.
less.
In 2 weeks. Of course, yes.
It's going to be a very hard thing to do business like this. I tell you.
Just say thank you.
I said a lot of times
that there,
thank you
accept
to
that-
American people.
Accept that there are disagreements, and let's go litigate those disagreements rather than trying to fight it out in the American media when you're wrong.
The confrontation shocking even some people in the Oval Office. A photographer in the room capturing this moment of Ukraine's ambassador to the U.S. with her head in her hands. Shortly after, President Trump called off the rest of President Zelensky's visit. After leaving the White House, President Zelensky posted on X thanking the U.S. and the White House for the meeting, adding that he will continue to work towards a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who's been a long time
It's not good for the Ukraine guy. He's probably not going to be the president for much longer. That was pretty dumb. He's fucked.
supporter of sending aid to Ukraine, spoke to reporters outside the White House late this afternoon and called the meeting a complete and utter disaster and suggested President Zelensky should resign, saying, quote,
Told you. I tried to tell you. I don't know what he thought it was going to happen, but his days are numbered. It's over with. His days are numbered. It's over with.
I don't know if we can ever do business with him again. So right now, a day that was supposed to move the peace process forward may have done exactly the opposite. And now major questions remain about where the United States-Ukraine relationship goes from here. Joining me now is our team of reporters, NBC News White House correspondent Yamiche Alcindor, NBC News chief
I can't believe we got that live. We were here live when that shit happened. This is why we stream, y'all boys. Good day on Friday.
Correspondent Richard Engel and NBC News senior national security correspondent Courtney Kube. Thanks to all of you for starting us off on this monumental day. Yamiche, let me go to you. What are administration officials telling you about how this Oval Office meeting erupted and devolved into this disaster?
Well, Kristen, this really was a rare, testy, and extraordinary exchange between the president of Ukraine and President Trump. After those cameras left and we saw all of that confrontation happen, President Trump huddled with White House advisors and decided that he wanted President Zelensky to be shown the door and leave the White House, canceling the press conference, canceling any sort of signing that would have happened on that rare earth minerals agreement. It was Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and the National Security Advisor Michael Waltz, who delivered that message to President Zelensky and Ukrainian officials, telling them that they needed to leave. I am being told by White House officials that Ukrainian officials were pushing for a reset, that they wanted to stay. That, of course, is the White House's take. We're still waiting for Ukrainian officials to say what they were thinking. The point is that everything was canceled and that Zelensky left the White House. In the meantime, President Trump took to online explaining that he believed President Zelensky was not ready for peace and that he could come back when he was ready. White House officials tell me there is absolutely no chance that President Zelensky will be welcomed back to the White House today. They're leaving open maybe the possibility that they could talk to him in the future. But as you said, Senator Lindsey Graham is saying that President Zelensky might not be someone that the White House could ever work with again. So very, very hard to see how President Trump and President Zelensky get on the same page to have another meeting. But really a remarkable day at the White House.
Wow.
It really was.
I thought Trump would at least be like, nah, he's going to do the deal. Trump still told him to leave. Damn. Oh, it ain't looking good. No, it ain't looking good.
No other way to say it. Richard Engel, I want to go to you now and keep everyone in place. We'll kind of go around the horn here. Richard, I've been covering the White House since the first Obama administration. I have never seen anything like this. Talk about how unprecedented.
And we were here live yet again. That's what I'm talking about, chat.
This is, and what is the reaction? What are Ukrainians telling you about the potential implications for peace?
So this was a disaster for Ukraine. You've used that word several times in the broadcast so far. Disaster, disaster, disaster. It was a disaster for Ukraine because Ukrainians were very nervous about this visit. They were very nervous about this rare earth mineral deal. They were already feeling that President Trump has been siding with President Putin, that his heart is with Russia, that he doesn't have much interest in backing Ukraine, that he's been trying mostly to recoup past monies and trying to shunt this problem off to Europe. Finally, the meeting happened. Like I said, many Ukrainians were nervous that President Zelensky was effectively being summoned to the White House to sign a deal that would give President Trump this mineral deal that potentially could cost hundreds of billions of dollars. And Zelensky kept chiming in that he wants security guarantees, that he wants more, that he thinks it's important to make sure that Vladimir Putin is not in a position to invade again. And as he kept pushing that line, you saw him come under attack from J.D. Vance, who said, effectively, you don't get it. It's the other way around. You're supposed to be here to sign, to say thank you, and to move on and not keep bringing up this issue of the security guarantees. And you just played out how it devolved. It escalated with Zelensky being berated first and being shouted down first by Vance and then by President Trump. At home in Ukraine, people are thinking that right now they don't have a friend in the White House. And I think this could represent a definitive shift where President Zelensky and President Trump are now perceived to be enemies, where President Trump is treating President Zelensky like he is the enemy. And this issue of appreciation, by the way, is very significant for Ukrainians because at the White House, you saw President Trump and Vice President Vance stressing that President Zelensky is not appreciative enough, that he should be there, accepting his weak position, admitting effectively that he is powerless. He refused to do that, and that set the White House off. I think this is the beginning of a very difficult chapter for Ukraine. And frankly, before you continue with your whip around, other countries are watching. Other allies are watching what happened when an ally in need went to the United States to sign a deal that President Trump wanted to sign, and when he didn't express the proper amount of appreciation. He didn't.
Appreciation. That nigga was not happy. That nigga was straight up disrespectful. Let's keep it a buck. Don't try to spin it your own way now. Calm down. I know y'all boys love war. He loved video in war. Because he sure don't want it to stop.
Keep his mouth.
He come here with that sad face. And he comes and he says 1,000 people done died. I'm so sad. Well, we'll be back tomorrow morning. What? They do that. They'll do that shit real clean. Well, next on NBC Nightly News, you be like, what the fuck? Did this nigga just talked about 100 dead people and just spinned off to a commercial? Oh, hell no.
He was thrown out, and the deal is now potentially off the table, and President Trump now could be treating him like an adversary going forward. Other allies are watching that and clearly imagining that they could be next, that next time they are in a time of need, that they could be in that chair in the Oval Office.
Come on now. It has been 3 years.
Being told that they're not appreciative, being told to quiet down and to get out of town if they don't like brutal display of American politics that is bad for Ukraine, certainly, and has many in Europe very concerned. The Prime Minister of Estonia just said the free world needs a new leader.
It's incredibly powerful, and I'm so glad you make that point, Richard, because I do think one of the big questions looming over that display, that exchange, that eruption of anger in the Oval Office is what it will mean, how it will potentially scramble the United States alliances around the world. Courtney Kube, let me go to you now. What is the reaction within the national security world? What are the potential implications?
So, Kristen, there's two very distinct reactions that we're seeing here today. And frankly, they fall on party lines, political lines. So some of the MAGA people here and the political people here in the Pentagon are praising this and saying that this is an example of America first on the world stage. President Trump, Vice President Vance showing strength, showing President Zelensky that the United States is going to stand their ground for their beliefs. The other side, which I will say is the majority of the people I have spoken with today anyway, are very concerned about the implications of this. Now, the United States has been sending weapons and equipment to Ukraine for more than 3 years now to help them fight off the Russian advances, the Russian full-scale invasion that just the third year anniversary of that just days ago. And that has been something that the Pentagon and the military have been in favor of. They have been very proud of their ability to flow these weapons into the war zone very quickly. It's been a monumental logistical effort that they have been able to send billions of dollars of weapons and equipment into Ukraine. And the military members and military leaders, frankly, who we speak with about that, are proud of the fact that they've been able to help Ukraine, who was, to call them the underdog in February of 2022 is an understatement. And yet there they are still continuing to fight off the Russian advances in the east and down towards the south. So that side, they are very concerned about it. I think from a larger strategic view from the U.S. military, the reality is this Pentagon and this leadership here have made it very clear that they are intent on withdrawing the U.S. from the positions that we have in Europe. We don't know what that looks like. We don't know how widespread it's going to be. But Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, Vice President Vance, even the president have talked about how the Europe needs to take more of its own responsibility for the defense of Europe. That includes Ukraine, because the United States, while they will continue to be committed to their partnerships and to NATO, that is going to be more of a commitment in name and less of a commitment in action going forward. They have made that clear on the world stage for the last several weeks, Kristen.
It's such an important point, Court, and the fact that President Trump continues to hammer that point home in all of these foreign leader meetings he's had with the President of France, the Prime Minister of the UK just yesterday. Richard, let me go back to you and let's talk about where this goes from here. I want to play you some of what President Trump said yesterday about peace deal talks.
We're working very hard to get that war brought to an end. I think we've made a lot of progress, and I think it's moving along pretty rapidly. And I want to thank all of the people that are here that have been working on it. And we'll let you know what happens. It'll either be fairly soon or it won't be at all.
Richard, of course, all of that comes after the president referred to Zelensky as a dictator after he blamed Ukraine falsely for starting the war. Of course, Russia started the war and invaded Ukraine. At this point, can this relationship be repaired, Richard? What do you anticipate happening?
It really depends on what we just saw. Did we see an emotional outburst by big personalities? Or was this an ambush? Was this pre-planned? Did Vance go in there as an agent provocateur and try and provoke Zelensky, and then Zelensky took the bait? Was it that, or was it a situation that just spiraled out of control? If it spiraled out of control...
Isn't it funny how they all got the same talking points? The meeting was done like an hour ago. Now they're all saying the same thing. Was it an ambush? It's like, bro, nobody thought it was an ambush. Now all y'all think it was an ambush.
And it was an ugly, heated argument. Then it is possible that they reconcile, that there's some meeting, a bearing of the hatchet. But it didn't sound like that. It sounded like there were a lot of previous issues that were involved here as well. A lot of water under the bridge. You saw J.D. Vance, who's never been a supporter of sending money to Ukraine or backing the cause in any particular way. You saw what seemed to be, I don't want to say a premeditated attack, but there seemed to be a lot that came out that didn't have to do with the peace deal, or it has to do with minerals. You saw J.D. Vance clearly angry that President Zelensky, he said, had been campaigning for the opposition, campaigning for the Democrats in Pennsylvania. You heard President Trump talk about how Vladimir Putin and he both had to suffer through what he describes as Russiagate and showing solidarity with Putin. It's like he's building that same case again. Ukraine started this war. It's Ukraine's fault. Poor Vladimir Putin, who had to go through Russiagate and be insulted just like Donald Trump was. And Ukraine isn't expressing enough appreciation that the U.S. helped them out. He said to Zelensky, I empowered you to be a tough guy, like it was him personally who created the persona of Vladimir Zelensky. To other people around the world, they saw Zelensky just stand up to...
I ain't gonna lie. I seen a lot of Europe, I told y'all this all year, for 2-3 years. A lot of people overseas have been talking shit. While they're taking our money, they've been talking shit. While they've been finessing, they've been talking shit. They got black Africans talking shit about Americans, black Americans. We got a whole bunch of people been talking shit. And all that shit they've been talking have came to a cease as soon as President Trump got in there. And you know what? I like the silence.
President Trump and Vice President Vance in the White House.
I was talking about that shit. And I said, boy, I guarantee you y'all won't go and protest on any campus anymore screaming that shit.
Foreign
language. We haven't seen none of that shit.
Language in the Oval Office, which is something that is not easy to do.
Well, fantastic reporting and analysis around this extraordinary event that unfolded in the Oval Office just a short time ago. So thank you all for starting us off, Richard, Yamiche, and Courtney. Joining me now to keep the conversation going is former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. He's also an NBC News international affairs analyst. Ambassador, thank you for joining us on this hugely significant day. What are your takeaways? What are the implications from your perspective of what we just witnessed?
Well, first, as an American, this was a tragic, sad day. This should not happen in the Oval Office. We should not be berating people that are fighting to save their country. It just got off the rails. It's unfortunate because it could have been a great day. This minerals deal was a good for both sides. I know that the Ukrainian side was looking forward to signing it. And the bottom line is that this does not serve America's national security interests. Let's leave aside Ukraine. It is not in our interests to do things that help Vladimir Putin. And that's what we saw today. This is a gift to Vladimir Putin, the dictator of Russia, who for the first time since 1945 launched a full-scale war complete with annexation in Europe. That is not in our national interest to be on that side. And I hope, to your question about implications, that the diplomats can get involved here. I did diplomacy. I did White House sprays, as you know. I don't do diplomacy in front of...
So, what I think? Complete, utter disaster. I've been to Ukraine 8 or 9 times since the war started. I understand the consequences of Putin's actions against Ukraine. I appreciate what the Ukrainian people have done. They fought like tigers. At the end of the day, I was hoping that this minerals deal, which would be transformative in the relationship, would go over well. I talked to Zelensky this morning. Don't take the bait. President Trump was in a very good mood last night. Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelensky again.
Pretty disrespectful.
I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with.
Yeah.
The way he handled the meeting,
it was not
the
good.
way he confronted the president,
not good.
Was just over the top.
It was not good.
So I think the relationship between Ukraine and America is important, vitally important. But can Zelensky do a deal with the United States? After what I saw, I don't know.
What would he need to do? Senator Graham. You saw lunch with President Trump. What did he say to you about his interactions and whether he thinks
he was shocked? He was very upbeat. I told Zelensky, we'll talk about security guarantees. We'll talk about ceasefires and how the war ends. This is a process. You have a new relationship with America, a $500 billion, $500 billion deal that President Trump is proud of, that gives us an interest worth defending. Let's talk about the positive. But he was terrible at Munich, Zelensky, and I think he has made it almost impossible to sell to the American people that he's a good investment, that he is a good business partner.
Last question. Senator Graham. Hey, one at a time. One at a time. Christian Daytop.
Senator Graham, thank you. Do you think President Zelensky needs to resign to resume these peace talks?
He either needs to resign and send somebody over that we can do business with, or he needs to change.
Do you
Thank you. All right, man. That says it. Let's hear Trump's response.
So thank you very much. So I just want to say we're going down to Florida. We have a big event tomorrow night. A big MAGA event, Make America Great Again. And it's setting records, and otherwise I'd rather be right now at the White House. But we're doing the big event tomorrow night. We had some big news this week, as you know, because Apple is investing $500 billion. Think of that. And that's going to be a lot. It's going to be a tremendous investment. I guess the biggest investment anybody's ever made in the country at one time. But they're going to be investing a lot of money, $500 billion. We have many other companies have just announced they're coming in. A lot of it's because, as you know, we had the Prime Minister of India. We have another overplayed his hand. We're looking for this really turned around. We had a meeting today, as you know, with President Zelensky, and I would say it didn't work out exactly great from his standpoint. I think he very much overplayed his hand. We're looking for peace. We're not looking for somebody that's going to sign up as strong power and then not make peace because they feel emboldened, and that's what I saw happening. I'm looking for peace. We're not looking to go into a 10-year war and play games. We want peace. And it was just my impression that if we do that, if we sign up, he's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight. We're looking to end the death. 2,000 people died this week. Soldiers, more than that, but 2,000 approximately people died this week. Young Ukrainians and Russians. And somebody would say, why do you care about Ukraine and Russian soldiers? I care about them. I care about everybody. And we're not doing that. Now, if we don't do anything, he's going to have to make peace, but he's dealing with a very weak set of cards. If we sign, he's dealing with a very strong set of cards, and then he doesn't want to make peace. So that's where we are. It's very simple. I'm not looking to get into anything protracted. I want immediate peace. President Putin is going to want to make, and he wants to end it. And you saw what I saw today. This is a man that wants to get us signed up and keep fighting, and we're not doing that, not for this country. So we're setting a lot of records. Economically, we're setting records, and I think every way we're setting records. One of the best is the right track, wrong track. You saw that. We're on the right track for the first time in over 27 years. People are impressed with that. The other thing is the feeling about our country. The feeling is great. It's up 48% on feeling on business. And that's the record we've never had. There's never been a record where we've ever gone up that much in such a short period of time. So we're doing really well. And I guess some of you are coming with us. And if you are, I hope you're going to have a good flight. What? What does Zelensky need to do to restart talks with you? He's got to say, I want to make peace. He doesn't have to stand there and say about Putin this, Putin that, all negative things. He's got to say, I want to make peace. I don't want to fight a war any longer. His people are dying. He doesn't have the cards, just so you understand it, okay? I can tell you.
Did you tell Zelensky to leave the White House?
I don't have to tell you that. Go ahead. I think you know the answer to that. What? Wait. Look, I don't trust or distrust anybody. I just want to get a deal done. And if the deal happens, good. But you can't embolden somebody that does not have the cards, and all of a sudden that person says, oh, well, now I can keep fighting. We're not going to keep fighting. You're going to get the war done or let them go and see what happens. Let them fight it out. I want anybody that's going to make peace. If he's capable of making peace, which he may or may not be, but I want somebody that's going to make peace. Again, he doesn't have the cards. When we sign up, he's got all of the cards. That doesn't mean he can fight. He's got to stop the fighting, stop the death. He's losing hundreds of thousands of soldiers. It's time to stop the death. Say it?
How long do you think it will take for Zelensky to want peace and let us back to the White House?
Well, he says he wants it now. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that. I can't.
Do you want an immediate ceasefire, Mr. President?
They should have an immediate ceasefire. That was the other thing. He didn't want to do about ceasefire. A ceasefire could take place immediately. A contract, if you want to end the war, you sign up an agreement. That's going to take a period of time. It takes time. I want it to end immediately. And I think if you had a ceasefire, it would be a ceasefire, a real one, that would end it. But he doesn't want to do that. That's fine. Do a better deal. I want it to end immediately. I want a ceasefire now. He says, oh, I don't want a ceasefire. Well, all of a sudden, he's a big shot because he has the U.S. on his side. Either we're going to end it or let him fight it out. And if he fights it out, it's not going to be pretty. Because without us, he doesn't win, let me tell you. It doesn't matter what I'm considering. I'm just telling you. You saw what I saw today. That was not a man that wanted to make peace. And I'm only interested if he wants to end the bloodshed. Thank you very much, everybody.
Trump's right, man. Whether he wanted to do something, that was not the place to do it.
All right, President Trump there kind of rehashing what
he probably just lost his job.
All watched in the Oval Office between he and Volodymyr Zelensky, saying that he's looking for something I'm not looking for, saying that Zelensky overplayed his hand. Now, how that works, that was replayed back. We call it tape playback by the White House press pool traveling with the president there. So that wasn't live. What is live right now, though, is Air Force One taxiing there on the tarmac to Joint Base Andrews. And Trump, all right, President Zelensky, national security analysts and experts, several years. And so that's why you heard President Trump there kind of railing against the ceasefire idea that he proffered, that he and Vance proffered there. And so, ours just 2 minutes.
Very interesting, man. I'm very
Ukrainian
glad.
president.
I'm very interested to see what happens next.
Fox News alert now. President Trump is on his way to Florida, and he may stop and talk to reporters after one of the most breathtaking moments. And we were waiting to see what happening in the Oval Office. And the many guests we have.
I think Trump was right. Even if he didn't feel happy, he should have waited. He don't even know the finale of the deal. Relax. He played too. He did too much, and he's right, President. He don't have enough cards to even be saying anything.
To do deals with bad guys.
But
Jessica.
he is not. I totally, and America in life has done some deals with some bad guys, but that isn't what's going on here. And Donald Trump revealed himself. I thought the most shocking part was that Trump goes on to say, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me. He went through a phony witch hunt.
All it did was underscore for everyone watching, for the millions watching, how deeply fragile and important diplomacy is, and that it doesn't always look tidy. And for President Trump to sit there and for them to entertain that question, that pushback on, what do you know?
All right. So everybody's just gonna be talking about how, you know, their side, blah 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 blah. And yeah, we'll see. I want to thank y'all for watching Stay Woke TV. Once again, I'm your host, DJ Grimlock. I will be back here in a little bit later on to do some more, probably some NBA talk and play some Red Dead Redemption. So thank you guys for being here. Make sure you hit that like, follow, subscribe button. Once again, I'm your host, Mr. DJ Grimlock, and this is Stay Woke TV, man. Y'all boys stay woke out there. Could you believe it?
Yeah.
It is it's gonna be crazy. Let's just say it like that. It's gonna be a fun ending, I guess. I'll see you guys later on. Thank y'all for the love, all the support. Hit that like, follow, subscribe button. We out.
Protests tonight across Russia in more than 50 cities, according to an NGO.
The families of Russian troops serving in the invasion of Ukraine are trying to convince the Kremlin to bring their loved ones back from the front. But the protests are risky in a country where even a blank piece of paper can put you in prison.
Now, those protests were at the start of the war, and the way Putin shut them down was, of course, the good old brutality and propaganda. He told the Russian citizens that America and NATO are out to get